Alright guys, Day Noodles here. Today we're going to be doing a comparison video between the Atom Black DTNVGs versus an AB Nightvision RNVG. Alright, so to get right into this, we're going to be comparing mainly the fact of an articulated night vision unit like a DTNVG and why you might want something like this versus a fixed bridge night vision unit like the RNVGs, as well as a little bit of detail versus why you might want one of these units versus another. They tend to fit a little bit different of an audience and a little bit different of a skill set, and a little bit different philosophies on why you might want one versus another. So the biggest difference here is the articulation. DTNVGs in like PVS-15s, PVS-31s, and even often a bridged PVS-14 setup, you can flip up the tubes out of the way as you want. So if you just want to have one tube, you can flip it up and then you'll only look through one. When the RNVGs are pretty much static, there's no way to adjust them. Where you have them is where they're going to stay. So that is the biggest difference. Now, why you might want one versus another is basically comes down to how much do you trust yourself to not break these units. I don't know anyone that's going to not prefer an articulated night vision unit. They definitely are advantageous for a lot of reasons. If you're in a highlight scenario and you need to be able to have more awareness of the light differences in your surrounding, oftentimes it's recommended to use one tube. So like if you, like a lot of people use that as an argument to why a 14 is better, or a monocular is better than a binocular. But if you have an articulated unit like a DTNVG, you have both. You can literally just, flip whatever tube you want out of the way, and now you're only using one tube and you're essentially as effective as a monocular. And whenever you decide you want to go back to a binocular, you just pull it down. When versus an RNVG, you're stuck with binoculars. There is nothing you can do to flip a tube out of the way. It's, I don't think you can adjust one all the way out. Maybe you can. But, when you have this down, it is in front of your face. There's no just looking through one tube. There are ways to combat, being able to have more awareness through looking through your tubes. Oftentimes people will take a unit like this and they will sit it farther away from their face than they normally would, so they can actually tilt their head up and look under the tube, which is a viable option, but it's still not as preferable as being able to flip a tube out of the way. But the other issue is how rugged like RNVGs and Sentinels are. The ANVIS units, bridge units, are pretty notorious for being very, very fragile. But when you look at an RNVG or even a Sentinel, like a fixed bridge night vision unit like that, they are about as rugged as you can get in the night vision world without looking at something crazy. These goggles are literally meant to be as robust as you can physically make them, and it has as few points of causing a problem as you can make. So they're very, very simple. They do not have gain. They do not have articulation. They do not have any computer inside of them that lets you know, hey, it's turning off whenever it's going to flip a tube out of the way. They are supposed to be as simple as possible to not have an issue. So if you're worried about reliability and you don't really need to worry about having a tube come out of the way, so if you're going to work in a very rural environment, for example, or say the woods or anywhere where it's going to be very, very dark and you want it to just always work, this is definitely something to consider, something like this, an RNVG or a Sentinel. If you're going to work in a urban environment where you're going to go from high light conditions to low light conditions, and you want to have the option to just use one tube, a articulated unit is almost unmatched in ease of use for that sort of application. The other thing here is oftentimes the weight. So when you compare these two, there's only about a ½ ounce difference between them, but the RNVG, because it is simpler, even though it is a aluminum housing versus a polymer housing of the DTNVGs, is lighter. So it is coming just over 21 ounces when the RNVGs are just under 21 ounces. So the difference between them two is not really that big of a deal, but if you're going to worry about ounces, the RNVG is a little bit lighter. Both these units have batteries and tubes inside them, so this is like your functional weight. But it's really like they're both going to work. They are both really, really nice units. It all depends on whether you value a really, really rugged unit versus a more versatile unit and what you want to aim. I have not seen as many issues with DTNVGs physically breaking. Like there are some horror stories like this or this, where you have an articulated unit break. I have yet to see that happen with DTNVGs, but they are a very, very new unit. They haven't been out for as long as previous 31s or 15s, so they do not have the length of exposure to have problems like that. But I do not think that's going to be an issue with a unit like an RNVG or a Sentinel because of the inherent nature of the design. Alright guys, if you have a question about this video, feel free to leave a comment down below and like and subscribe for future content.